As of the end of January 2025, Manchester United and Tottenham are 12th and 15th respectively in the Premier League table. But why are they performing so badly? And which of the two teams is in a worse position? Well, in this video, we're going to make a comparison between Spurs and Man United, drawing parallels of their good and bad sides. Starting with Tottenham, who are seemingly in a worse situation. Judging by their recent results, this is the best meme you can make on them right now. But do you know why? Well, shockingly, Spurs actually have the second best attack in the league, only behind Liverpool, despite sitting in the bottom half of the table, 8 points above the relegation zone. That's right, they've scored 45 goals in 22 games, which makes an average of over 2 goals per game. The only team with a better attacking record is Liverpool, who have scored 50 goals in 21 games. And we have the perfect proof of that. You remember that the league game between the two sides ended 6-3 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, don't you? However, those impressive attacking figures put an end to all the good news for Tottenham. When it comes to defence, Spurs are literally terrible. They have the 6th worst defensive record in the league, having conceded a total of 35 goals so far. But most disappointingly, almost 60% of their goals have come in their last 8 league games. Yes, that's devastating, but Spurs have conceded 20 goals in the last month and a half, including 4 from Chelsea, 6 from Liverpool and 3 from Everton. That adds up to 2.5 goals conceded per game since matchday 15. I want to make it even worse, they conceded 3 more in the EFL Cup against Manchester United in one of the most outrageous football matches we've seen in recent years. We'll touch on this later, but that game really sums up the pathetic situation in North London and Old Trafford. As for the Red Devils, they look a little bit better in terms of recent results, as they at least managed to grab some positives. Yes, after the loss at Brighton, Ruben Amorim stated that this might be the worst Manchester United team in history.
We are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines.
But unlike Tottenham, the Red Devils have had their moments in big games, such as the 2-2 draw with Liverpool at Anfield and the penalty shootout drama that knocked Arsenal out of the FA Cup after United played with a man down for more than an hour. Those are the undeniable facts, and they shouldn't come as a surprise as Man United have played with passion and determination since the arrival of Ruben Amorim. Judging from the outside, Amorim is doing what Erik ten Hag has been asked to do all along: get rid of the players he doesn't need and only work with people who are prepared to give 110% for the team in every game. The difference with the Dutchman was that even though he knew there were players who were not at the level Man United needed, he kept them on. And that made things worse. I mean, you don't have to be the greatest football expert to realise that Antony doesn't have half the quality to be part of Man United, even at the current state of the Red Devils. So, he's been sent out on loan to Real Betis and will probably be sold during the summer. A similar situation exists with Marcus Rashford, who hasn't played a single minute of football for the last 40 days, and is now close to agreeing a loan deal with Barcelona or Borussia Dortmund. Yes, by the time this is uploaded, a transfer could have already taken place. The reason I bring this up is because the whole saga, as well as the internal problems, could actually be one of the main reasons for Man United's struggles on the pitch. Don't get me wrong, nobody's making excuses, but these things can be a real distraction. As for Tottenham, they are fortunate not to have any internal problems. At first glance, everyone in the team appears to be in harmony. But what is the reason for their disastrous form? And before we reveal it, just listen to this. A few days ago, The Sun published an interesting article titled "Tottenham on track for worst season since they were relegated in 1977. Well, it says that, indeed, the last time Tottenham were relegated from the top flight, in 1977, they lost exactly half of their 42 games. Yes, they played 42 games then, not 38 like they do today. But the really interesting and worrying for Spurs fans part comes when we look at the average points per game. So first of all, since a win was worth 2 points back then, not 3, let's convert the stats into modern football terms to make the math easier and more comprehensible. In 1977, Tottenham won 12 games, lost 21 and drew 9. Given that a win is worth 3 points, that makes a total of 45 points for the 1976-77 season. This in turn gives us an average of 1.07 points won per game back then. Now, let's get back to this season. So far, Spurs have won 7, drawn 3 and lost 12 of their 22 Premier League games, which makes 24 points. You see the similarities? As of matchday 22, Spurs have won a total of 1.09 points per game, which is almost the same as in 1977. The conclusion is that if Tottenham carry on like this until the end of 2024-25, we could potentially see ballers like Heung-min Son, James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski lighting up the Championship in clashes against Preston North End and Oxford United. And while the chances of that happening are slim to none, we can't overlook the fact that Tottenham's injury crisis is literally unrivaled in the league. Yes, Arsenal might be a close second, but at the moment, Spurs have lost their starting goalkeeper, Vicario, 3 of their starting 4 defenders, Romero, Van der Ven and Udogie, both of their holding midfielders, Bentancur and Basuma, as well as their starting strikers Solanke and winger Brennan Johnson. And on top of that, you also have Fraser Forster, Timo Werner and Wilson Odobert on the sidelines. That makes a staggering 10 injured first team players at the end of January. And it won't get any better with Vicario, Solanke and Udogie, all set to be out until at least early March. But still, as I like to say, every team should be prepared for this. It happens to literally every club in Europe, or at least the ones that play every 3 days. At the start of the season, I made a video about Spurs analysing their impressive results and their goal scoring prowess. Well, the latter has more or less remained at the same level, but the results? Oh dear. To be perfectly honest, the last really impressive match in which Spurs came out with 3 points was against Man City at the Etihad in late November. Now, some of you might say, but City were awful then. Yes, it's a fact that the citizens were at a peak of their disappointing run, but 4-0 against a Pep Guardiola team is always impressive. So, after that victory, Spurs have only managed to win 2 games by the 90th minute, the 5-0 win over Southampton and the 1-0 win over Liverpool in the EFL Cup. I mean, they couldn't even score against 5th Division Tamworth FC. That is beyond diabolical. Yes, they eventually won 3-0 in extra time, but come on. And while we're on the subject of the Liverpool game, a word or two should be said about Spurs' latest signing. 21-year-old Czech international Antonin Kinski. He is undoubtedly Tottenham's best player in 2025, and he hasn't even been at the club for a full month. However, Kinski has stepped up massively in the absence of Vicario and Forster, making a remarkable 15 saves in his 4 appearances for Tottenham so far. However, when it comes to the defence in front of him though, I wouldn't be too far off the mark to say that even Southampton are more solid at the back at the moment. Just look at the opener at Goodison Park. Calvert-Lewin is in the penalty box. 4 people have surrounded him and no one dares to clear the ball. As for Ange Postecoglou, there is a real possibility that he could leave in the near future. But would that change anything? Well, if Daniel Levy manages to bring in Sir Alex Ferguson or Zinedine Zidane, maybe that would change their background. But I don't think anything or anyone in the realistic world could change Tottenham's mediocrity at the moment. And the boys at the Athletic podcast said exactly that in one of their latest episodes.
One of the risks of sacking him now is that it would just make Tottenham look like 18 months FC. You know, they were unable to build anything long term. You know, Mourinho only had 18 months or just under. Conte only had 18 months or just under. Postecoglou's now had more Premier League games than either Mourinho or Conte.
So the best possible plan for Tottenham right now is to avoid relegation. That is priority number 1. And only then fight for the Europa League and eventually the EFL Cup, if they are lucky enough to come out undamaged of the second leg against Liverpool. As for the European competition, Spurs are 9th in the standings, but with a perfect chance at finishing in the top 8, as they face 24th placed Elfsborg in the final round. And back to Man United, what do you think is their biggest weakness? If you ask me, it's their inconsistency against weaker teams. With all due respect to Brighton, Wolves and Bournemouth, of course. Since the arrival of Ruben Amorim, the Red Devils have actually done quite well in the big games. Probably the only clash in which United's performance was close to 0 was against Newcastle at the end of 2024. On the other hand, they were solid against Man City, against Arsenal in both the League and FA Cup, and against Liverpool, of course. Of those games, United won against City and once against Arsenal, drew against Liverpool, and narrowly lost 2-0 to the Gunners due to an inability to handle dead ball situations. They've also lost crucial points in games where they were the favourites. And it is this inability to win games convincingly that Amorim and co will have to work on. All in all, they have a solid squad, certainly better than Tottenham's, with competitiveness all over the pitch, and I really think that even though they're struggling a lot, Man United are probably at least 2 steps ahead of their opponent. Now, what do you think? How do you see both teams performing between now and the end of the season? Let us know down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out one of our latest uploads on Matthias Cunha and how he took the Premier League by storm. Catch you there.